اللهم صل على سيدنا ومولانا محمد وعلى آل سيدنا ومولانا محمد وأصحابه وبارك وسلم. My dearly beloved Juma'h Muslimin, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi ta'ala wa barakatuh. Alhamdulillah, it gives me immense pleasure and honor to present to you our speaker who needs really no introduction, the Honorable Hafiz, Advocate Abu Bakr Mohammad, Supreme Court Advocate of South Africa. And without further ado, I call upon the Honorable Hafiz Sahab to kindly address us. فليتفضل مشكورا.
الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على أشرف المرسلين سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وأصحابه أجمعين والحمد لله رب العالمين. Brothers and sisters, respected Imam, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. The whole world today is obsessed with two things. One is the abuse of wealth, and the other is the abuse of time. And sometime, a few months ago, I had the honor and the privilege to address you here on this forum, and I chose the Surah Wal Asri, the 103rd Surah of the Holy Quran. I would like today to extend, without necessarily repeating, the meaning of these three verses. Wal asri innal insan lafi khusr illa alladhina amanu wa amilu salihat wa tawasaw bil haqq wa tawasaw bis sabr. It was Imam Shafi who once said that if there was no further revelation, then these three verses would suffice to give you the depth of its meaning and its relevancy for the problems that we are witnessing today throughout the world. Allah Almighty says, just to quickly retrace, Wal asri innal insan, by the token of time, man is at a loss. It is a time of the day when the sun is setting. It is a time of the day when your shadow is longer than your height. It is a time of the day when businessmen are closing. And it is a time of the day when half the job is left incomplete. But Allah Almighty does not leave us in a state of doom, because two things. One, your time is fixed. From the womb to the tomb, you cannot increase time. 1 second is gone, neither the goal of the entire world will bring that 1 second back. So that's fixed. Two, you will not know when your time is up. In Surah Al-Luqman, Allah holds back 5 things that man shall never know. Inna Allaha indahu ilmu as-sa'a وينزل الغيث ويعلم ما في الأرحام وما تدري نفس ماذا تكسب غدا وما تدري نفس بأي أرض تموت إن الله عليم خبير. So you will never know when you will die, and you shall never know where you will die. We may be seated here, but nobody knows whether it is 1 second or 2 or 5 or 10. With this in mind, should we find ourselves in a state of doom? Should we find ourselves in a state of despair? No. Because Allah says, except إِلَّا الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا, except those who believe, and وَعَمِلُوا الصَّالِحَاتِ, and who do good deeds. Here is the secret that unfolds. Because whilst you cannot increase time, and you cannot shrink it, but you can use it positively in the performance of good deeds. For those who believe and accept the reality of these two facts, that you shall not know when your time is up, nor shall you know its duration, then it starts making sense. وَعَمِلُوا الصَّالِحَاتِ, what are those good deeds? Now, how do we unfold this secret? A good deed is that which earns Allah's pleasure. It is everything and anything from smiling to somebody or a conductor or standing in a straight line and showing adab and courtesy to feeding the poor, the orphan and the destitute. It's everything and anything that earns Allah's pleasure. There's a British experiment, a research that was done in 2013, where they sent a questionnaire to 4.5 million small, medium enterprises. And the question was, what would you do with 10% of the time you saved? And 900,000 CEOs responded. And 70% of the 900,000 said that we would put 10% of the time we saved back into the business. So they took their theoretical model and pumped it into the computer, and they found that the savings of 10% will increase the revenue of that business by 20 and 50%. And then they put that into the computer model and came up with a figure that just by saving constructively the time of 10% will contribute to 300 billion British pounds to the British economy and would almost wipe out unemployment. So if that's the case, then what is the secret? And this is where وَعَمِلُوا الصَّالِحَاتِ comes in, that when a person recognizes his weakness, and he in turn implicitly recognizes the strength of another person. All of us have some work that we do we don't like doing. We don't enjoy it. But there's someone who can do this, he enjoys this. So a businessman or a person in position of responsibility, if he delegates what he doesn't like to someone who can do that better than him, in that delegation, he saves his time to do something better. What we're seeing is a person recognizing his weakness first. That I can't do this man can do this better than me, and in this particular way, with his akhlaq and character, the delegation of responsibility in the boardroom, or in the mosque, in the trust board, in society, in organizations, you find a restructuring where people who can do things better are given the freedom to do it, and you're producing excellence. In this way, that person who recognizes his weakness is humble. He respects the strength of that person, even if he's a tea boy or a gardener, and he's creating what I call transformational leadership. This is the Sahabas. This was the conduct of Hazrat Umar. This was the conduct of Hazrat Abu Bakr as-Siddiq. When they recognized people, they didn't look at the color of that person. The darkest of the dark was the commander of the top, in the topmost position, to sign a treaty. People of different shades and colors, but they looked at their quality, they looked at their weakness first, the strength of the other. In this way, they created powerful leadership. Transformational leadership emerges from humility. Implicit in humility is honesty. If a person recognizes his weakness and accepts it, he's genuinely honest. Now what comes after this? What comes after وَعَمِلُوا الصَّالِحَاتِ وَتَوَاصَوْا بِالْحَقِّ? Here's another secret unfolding. When a man is honest, he's honest because he's in a state of ihsan. He knows his time is precious. He knows it could be tomorrow, it could be now. When they were Sahabas, and they were seated. I think I mentioned this before, but it's worth mentioning again. And the Sahaba said to this man, "What is your wish?" He says, "I wish Allah keeps me alive long enough to do Maghrib." "And yours?" He said, "I wish Allah keeps me alive long enough to do Asr." "And yours?" He said, "I wish Allah keeps me alive long enough to do Zuhr." And then the three turned to the senior and they said, "Now, Sheikh, what is your wish?" He said, "My wish is that Allah keeps me alive long enough to stand up." These were people who were in a state of Iman and belief. So, وَعَمِلُوا الصَّالِحَاتِ وَتَوَاسَوْا بِالْحَقِّ is that فَاذْكُرْ رَبَّكَ فَحَدِّثْ. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is talking about how you are to remind yourself within yourself. Remember Allah. So what happens is from the person who is in a state of nafsul ammara, the animal self, the one that eats, that one that sleeps, that one walks and talks and marries. All of us are in that category. But what happens, because he's honest, what emerges from him, he recognizes his weakness, he starts questioning. لا أقسم بيوم القيامة ولا أقسم بالنفس اللوامة. So from a state of ammara, he now graduates to a state of nafsul lawwama. He's now questioning. Somebody once said, there are two most important days in the life of a human being. The day he was born and the day when he realizes why he was born. This is nafsul lawwama. As you start questioning, his conscience sharpens. He commits a sin, but he questions his conduct. He's remorseful. He's penitent. He now realizes he's wrong. And it's like a swing door. He commits a sin again, but realizes a sense of guilt and remorse. Each time from a questioning person who criticizes his own conduct. Do I need the second plate? I've just eaten. People are hungry. Do I need to drive a Mercedes when I can do with a Toyota? And it's everything. In this way, nafsul lawwama sharpens individual consciousness and now projects him to another level of nafsul mulhima, the inspired self. What you are seeing from Wal Asr is an evolution of the personality of that person. From stage 1 to stage 2 to stage 3, nafsul mulhima is the inspired self. He's now going beyond the capacity of reason. He's moving from detachment to attachment. Suddenly that Mercedes is not so important to him now. He's going to answer himself in the grave. Now suddenly, الَّذِي جَمَعَ مَالًا وَعَدَّدَ يَحْسَبُ أَنَّ مَالَهُ أَخْلَدَ. What is the matter with you? Accumulating wealth, thinking you will live forever. كَلَّا لَيُنْبَذَنَّ فِي الْحُطَمَةِ. Allah doesn't say no, I will not recognize your wealth. Allah Almighty says, never. Never ever shall I recognize your wealth. It is وَعَمِلُوا الصَّالِحَاتِ. Good deeds. That is the currency. لَعَلِّي أَعْمَلُ صَالِحًا فِي مَا تَرَكْتُ كَلَّا إِنَّهَا كَلِمَةٌ هُوَ قَائِلُهَا وَمِنْ وَرَائِهِمْ بَرْزَخٌ إِلَى يَوْمِ يُبْعَثُونَ. When we reach that state of shock, and suddenly you find like a fish out of water, you begin to say to Allah Almighty, give me 5 more minutes to settle my affairs. Allah Almighty will tell you it's too late. because behind you is death, in front of you is barzakh. So with this person in the state of nafsul mulhima, inspired self, suddenly the whole world, the mist is removed, the cloud is removed. Suddenly he sees the same plant, he sees the same bird, he sees the same tree, and he realizes that not a leaf moves without Allah's will and knowledge and power. Now he begins to understand, يَعْلَمُ مَا بَيْنَ أَيْدِيهِمْ وَمَا خَلْفَهُمْ وَلَا يُحِيطُونَ بِشَيْءٍ مِّنْ عِلْمِهِ إِلَّا بِمَا شَاءَ. Allah has knowledge of what is in front of you, what is behind you. Allah Almighty is the origin of all origins and the cause of all causes. All kingdom, everything in the universe, between the heavens and the earth, not even the fish in the deepest oceans breathes without His will. This is the person who is inspired, and suddenly you will see that he begins to see. Allah enables him to see with his eyes. Allah enables him to see and hear with his ears. This is the evolution of Islam, as he is no longer talking the talk, he is now walking the talk. Nafsul mulhima is that inspired self. Nabi Muhammad alayhi salatu wasalam had said, to question is half the knowledge. Suddenly answers are pouring down. He begins to know why he was born. And now that takes him to another level. That now, from a state of nafsul mulhima, is now in the state of nafsul mutama'inna. Contentment comes in, tranquility. Everything is in its proper place, is now in the state of tahqiq. Tahqiq means to be in a state of realization. You begin to understand why you were born. Life has a purpose. There are three pillars: Tawheed, the prophets, and the return. That's what it's all about. You can talk till the cows come home. You can build factories and industries. You can have degrees, and you can talk as much as you want. Life is all about these three pillars. Tawheed, which is the obedience and worship to Allah's command. The prophets, from Adam alayhi salam to the Khatam al-Nabiyyin, Nabi Muhammad alayhi salatu wassalam, and the grand preparation of the return. Then comes in وَتَوَاسَوْا بِالْحَقِّ. It is only when you in tahqiq that you can talk to people of haqq. What is haqq? The English translation is truth. But in its original meaning, it's more than that. It is what is appropriate, what is just, what is equitable. So everywhere that you conduct yourself, the conduct must be just in that circumstances. It must be appropriate. And that is what you're going to be enjoying to people. وَتَوَاسَوْا بِالْحَقِّ. Hadith of Nabi Muhammad alayhi salatu wassalam, that your ruh has a haqq against you. Your Rabb has a haqq against you. Your spouse has a haqq against you. Your guest has a haqq against you. So, give to each that has a haqq its haqq. So when you talk about وَتَوَاسَوْا بِالْحَقِّ, this is what it means. Justice, the rights of that person, respect the rights. Respect the people that are standing in the queue, whether it's in the bank or in the bus. Respect the elder. Respect your word. respect the promise that you gave. That's what it is. وَتَوَاسَوْا بِالْحَقِّ is enjoining people to that which is fair, just, and appropriate. So you are moving from one level, which is mutamainna, to another level that pleases Allah Almighty. And that is nafsul radiyah. Allah Almighty is pleased with you. That's the fifth level. When Allah is pleased with you, He's opening more and more doors for you. What are those doors? Is nafsul mardiyah, sixth level, and that is when creation is pleased with you. Society is pleased with you. And in this is you get the great personalities that we have read in history, and some of them still living today, of attaining that level where Allah Almighty is pleased with them and creation is pleased with them. Nafsul mardiyya. Jazauhum inda rabbihim. Jannatu adnin tajri min tahti al-anharu khalidina fiha abada. Radiyallahu anhum wa radu an. Allah is pleased with them and they are pleased with Him. ذَلِكَ لِمَنْ خَشِيَ رَبَّهُ. These are the ones that have the sweetness of paradise, the sweetness of the akhirah, that Allah Almighty rewards them. And finally comes the last stage, which if you are lucky, Allah Almighty gives you that time, if you use it, nafsul kamila, the perfect self. All the prophets attain that status. That's why they were chosen as messengers, because they attain the status of the perfect self. So when you look at these three verses, we come to the last one, وَتَوَاسَوْا بِالصَّبْرِ. What is وَتَوَاسَوْا بِالصَّبْرِ? Is that you enjoin people to sabr. When you are in that state, you begin to see now that Allah created this universe in opposites. وَالضُّحَى وَاللَّيْلِ إِذَا سَجَى مَا وَدَّعَكَ رَبُّكَ وَمَا قَلَى. Allah has created the bright light of the morning and the darkness of the night. In the same way that you have health, you have illness. You have joy, you have sorrow. You have wealth, you have poverty. All of this, مَا وَدَّعَكَ رَبُّكَ وَمَا قَلَى. Allah Almighty never abandons you in either one. Because the test is sabr. You exercising sabr. That is the test. Sabr in what He has given you without necessarily going into exaltation, and in the test of deprivation, sabr. So وَتَوَاسَوْا بِالْحَقِّ, وَتَوَاسَوْا بِالصَّبْرِ is a natural consequence of wal asri. So Allah Almighty starts with wal asr and ends with was sabr. Now you begin to see that the whole ecology of a very successful life is in these three verses. And we see today the abuse of wealth and time. There was a time when you communicated with pigeons and then with fast horses to save time, and then with mechanical means, and now with digital communication, where with Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, and you're communicating to millions of people in split of a second. If the researchers had said that you could save 10% of your time, it is fair to say today that you can save 70% of your time. But what are you doing with that 70%? Entertainment, useless communication, useless discussion, movies, YouTubes, and. Nobody is looking at that by the time you finish with that, you're already 100, 200, 2,000 seconds gone closer to the grave. This is now abuse of wealth. Those that come up with this are super wealthy, but abusing it. As I've said to somebody this morning, and it's factually correct, there are 86 people, their names are known, who own the wealth of 3.5 billion people in the world, and abusing wealth. And then you have the abuse of time. So therefore, brothers, remember again, when the wise man said there are two most important days in your life, one is when you were born, but the other one is why you were born. And the next time you read Surah Al-Asr, think about why Allah Almighty starts with Asr and why He ends with Sabr. Subhana rabbika rabbil izzati amma yasifun wa salamun ala al-mursaleen walhamdulillahi rabbil alameen.
Takbir. Allahu Akbar walillahi alhamd. Shukran, Jazakallah khair to the Honorable Hafiz Advocate Abu Bakr Mohammad from Durban, and advocate to the Supreme Court of South Africa, and speaking to us on the beautiful topic, abuse of wealth and time, and also explaining to us the beautiful growth and development of the nafs and of the human soul. May Almighty Allah grant us the capacity of understanding and implementation. And to you, Advocate Hafiz Abu Bakr Mohammad, may Almighty Allah bless you and preserve you for many more years to continue the good work that you are doing towards all the Muslim organizations that you are attached to and involved with. May Allah bless you and your family. Ameen. Ya Rabbal Alameen.